It's foundation inspection. We're standing at the front left elevation. You can see here the stones and rocks are here, and the foundation here is showing up. Let's go down a bit lower. You can see it's exposed. That's caused by erosion, and the erosion is brought about by the lack of gutters. There's no gutters on the roof line. That erosion's serious, and that needs to be accounted for. You need to actually have it filled in. The grade should come to within 4 inches at the top of the foundation, not as it is at the moment. Continue on the left hand elevation. Well, there's some exposed post tension cable, one down there, just starting to be exposed. More exposed foundation here. We're now moving to the left hand elevation, or the rear elevation now, leaving the left. That wood is the trunk of a tree left there. Obviously a seep, it's not good. That's going to be a tractor for termites. We have more erosion at the rear elevation. You can see around here, the lines here. Typical erosion caused by no gutters. We're now moving to the left-hand elevation, sorry, the right elevation. Again, the grade doesn't come up high enough on the foundation itself. Should come within 4 inches at the top of the foundation. See, along here we've again got a lot of erosion. And now moving to the front elevation of the property. Now these bushes and these trees are not good. The problem with them is they expirate a lot of water, and it's going to affect the foundation over time. These are grown too tall, shouldn't be up as high as this. My recommendation is always remove these from around your foundation. They look nice, I know, but your foundation is important, and these actually can cause real problems with foundations. Here again we've got a lot of exposed foundation. Again, it's erosion that's causing it. Now this house has a small retaining wall. We'll look at that a bit later when we looked at the foundation. More erosion around the foundation here and here. Yeah, a lot of erosion here. Highly recommend that the grade around this house is rebuilt. Otherwise you're going to have in the future, and it could happen within 6 months, you're going to have foundation issues show themselves with cracks in the walls, etc, etc. The grade inspection. The grade is good in as much as it slopes away from the house all the way around. That's good. Apart from it not coming up to the right level on the foundation, I'd say it was first class. This is the retaining wall. This is pretty important. It holds your property in place. Now, looking up here, we can see we've got a swale. As it slopes down, you've got a drain that runs out. Never block that. These trees, again, I'll point out that they are problematic around houses. is the grade at the left side elevation. Got a good slope, so it should drain. And then we've had an additional patio here. It's not interfering with drainage, that's fine. This is the rear elevation. Got reasonable drainage around here. And the eaves, etc. around the building determine the condition. We're actually at the rear elevation, the condition of the roof. Now I'm not going to step on this roof because it's quite windy and it's very steep. So my inspection is going to be from the ladder as we work round. There's a little bit of damage or weathering to the chimney there. That can be fixed quite easily. A bit of paint, tender loving care. Let's move around the house a bit further. This is the right elevation. Flashing's looking good order here. There's no apparent damage to the shingles, and there's been a lot of hail around this part of the world in recent days or weeks. I have to tell you, it's very difficult to ascertain whether a roof has been damaged by hail. The only thing you could do is ask around the neighbours and other people whether there's any damage in this area. Driving into the area today, I didn't see any work being carried out on roads, which is a good sign, because you know, if you have hail coming into an area, it often hits a bunch of houses, so you know, for a while before you start the inspection, that there's a good probability that some of the hail hit the house you're inspecting. Well, we're at the front right now. Penetration's looking good order. Okay, there's a shingle missing up the top there. One shingle, two shingles. There are two shingles missing from the front right elevation of the property. Now, having found that, I'm now going to recommend that you have a roofing inspector in, somebody who has expertise in hail damage, because there could well be hail damage to this roof, and I'm not able to determine it. I don't have that sort of expertise. There's some damage to the shingles on the edge there at the rake, right near the apex. Okay, let's move to the front elevation. We're at the front elevation now. Particularly interested in
flashing there's okay, but this one's not. Here is a hole. That's got to be filled in. Now, there's another hole which I saw as I arrived, and that hole actually is made by rats. Let's move around to the other elevation. So right up above us here is a hole in the trim work, and that's been chewed by rats. They get on the roof and then they find their way into the building. It's probably not active now. It's the sort of thing they do in the winter. Come the summer they abandon places like this, houses, and go on outside. Anyway, let's have a look at the roof at the left elevation, see what we can see. We're now at the left elevation of the property. It's a damaged shingle towards the rear. Yeah. My assessment of this roof at the moment is it's aged, and I highly recommend that it's inspected, a roof inspector's brought in. The insurance companies would do this now. They actually do it for nothing. The whole of North Texas is crawling roof inspectors because of the hail and through the storms that came through in recent weeks. Now we're going to go finally to the left rear elevation, approximately where we started, having been completely round the building. We're at the rear left elevation. There's a lot all around the house. The decking on the roof is distorted and bowed. Now that could just be poor construction when it was built, often is the case, but these shingles here, they're quite brittle, so I'd say the roof is getting on up there. It may be the original roof, so it could be getting on for near 20 years old. And then up above here at the vent, we've got a lifting shingle.
attic inspection. Now I mentioned when I was up looking at the roof there was a little bit of distortion in the decking. Well, I'm looking now and there's very little up here. A little bit of movement, but you always get that. This is wall and window inspection. We're at the exterior. The condition of the caulking is in poor condition. You've got holes here and the mortar, holes in the caulking here. It's going to leak that water in. These windows are missing weep holes. They're steel lintels, they should have weep holes over them. More poor caulking here. It's the rear elevation. We haven't seen any cracks in the walls. There was a little bit of movement of the trim boards up here, but nothing that's really significant. Now we're at the patio area, and we have a lean-to cover to the patio, which is illegally installed. This is a ledger board that's going through the brickwork. These bricks here, you see they've got a hole here. These bricks are not structural, therefore they've got no strength, and the bolts that are being used to hold the structure up and the lean-to up are going to put undue force on those bricks. It could pull the bricks out. I recommend you have this removed. It should be freestanding. So it's got feet here, got 2 posts here, 2 posts there. They should be self-supporting. It shouldn't actually be attached to the building. This ledger board also hasn't got any flashing above it, so water's going to run down the wall and it will run down behind the ledger board here, and it will get into the walls in the holes made by the bolts. A little bit of movement here, just slight. All buildings move. So we're at the left-hand elevation now. There's a bit of water damage down here. It's been painted over and along here. There's definitely water penetration in this area, and as such I would recommend, because I've now found rats and I've found water penetration here, I recommend you have a termite inspector to establish that there are not termites in this building. There's nothing I can do about it. I can't tell you one way or another because I'm not qualified to speak on termites. Again, the caulking's in poor condition. So on the day of the inspection, the rear and left elevation have no cracks in the brickwork. Now at the front elevation, caulking is again poor. Now there's a bit of movement in the mortar here. It's fallen out. It needs to be recaulked, and above us here it's recaulked. Oh, I can see what's happening. So there's a hole here, in this area here. Water's getting in behind it, it's running down the wall, caught by the flashings, and it's coming out and washing the mortar out over that window. So there's definitely evidence of water penetration there, and that needs to be addressed. At the front portico, again the windows have got poor caulking, and in fact this one's got a damn great hole in it. That's going to let loads of water in. In fact, there's been water pouring in there throughout the last few weeks with the rains that we've had. Up here too we've got damage to the mortar, it needs repointing, damage to the caulking above us here. So this wall actually has been leaking like a sieve. We're now moving to the right elevation. Again, condition caulking very poor around the whole of the house, and we're now on the right elevation. All the windows are the same, very poor caulking. But again, no evidence on the right hand elevation of structural movement in the brickwork, indicated by cracks. Hole in the caulking here. All needs to be done. And up here, a hole in the up there's a hole that's got to be filled in. Out the rear elevation of the garage, you can see here all the caulking has come away. Somebody's done a temporary repair. What has actually happened is the wall has moved and they put in a temporary repair here, but it hasn't gone down here, so there's water getting into the wall here. Here we're at the garage door, and you can see here we have considerable amount of damage, and I can't tell you whether that's water damage or termite damage. I highly recommend you get a termite inspector into this property before you close, because there's too many indications of pre-existing conditions that could indicate termites are present. Door inspection. Now you can see down at we're at the yard door at the moment, and you see here we've got quite a lot of damage to the caulking, and it's caulked at the bottom. The door actually is incorrectly installed. That wood shouldn't be touching the stone, it should actually have clearance. This one this side you can see has a clearance, there's a gap there. However, somebody has mistakenly caulked this one, so that one on the left hand side of the door is correct, one on the right hand side is incorrect. The yard door, again the door is installed incorrectly, got poor caulking around here, and the wood is in contact with the stonework. That needs to be cut back, otherwise it will lead to rot in the door frame. This ceilings and floor inspection. We're looking for cracks. indications of movement. Can't inspect anything covered in carpet. That's another way of telling. The near floors we can look at. This whole house has been recently decorated, and that covers up any sort of cracks and stuff that might appear, though they often show through. And in the case of this house, doesn't seem to be any major ceiling cracks. That's all looking pretty good. So we're back where we started from in the master.